On yesterday's program, we talked about this Texas Trump elector who, because for religious reasons, could not bring himself to cast an electoral vote for Donald Trump, decided to resign, which will, as I mentioned yesterday, lead to a replacement elector showing up and casting that electoral vote for Donald Trump. And I speculated, it would be more powerful to stay in and not vote Trump or vote for Hillary Clinton than to just leave and let yourself be replaced with another Trump vote, which might make you feel better, but it would have absolutely no impact. After the show, I spoke with a source of mine who I inherently trust, who told me something that, to be frank, is the scope of this is something we've never had our hands on before. And this is someone who is in a position to know what I'm about to tell you. And we had a conversation about this. And this is something that, if true, is absolutely huge. And what my source told me is that there is a coalition of at least 15 electors, electoral voters, electors, Trump electors, who have decided that they are not going to cast their electoral votes for Donald Trump on December 19th. The other piece of this from my source is that this group of 15 electors is quietly campaigning to reach out to convert other electors to not vote Trump, with the goal of denying him the 270 electoral votes that are required to become president of the United States. Now, of course, the implications of this are absolutely monstrous. And this number of 15, to refresh the data, 37 is sort of a key number. With 306 electoral votes for Trump, Donald Trump would need to lose 37 to no longer have enough electoral votes to be president of the United States. This goes above and beyond the discussions of recounts that have been going on, particularly as those are very unlikely to change anything. And if there is going to be a flipping of this election, it's going to depend on the electors. Now, many people will hear this, Rachel and Pat, and they will say these electors would be doing something fundamentally wrong if they decide to vote for someone other than Donald Trump or just not vote for Donald Trump. I couldn't disagree with you more. Alexander Hamilton was one of the framers who said electors are actually supposed to apply what Hamilton himself referred to as, quote, a judicious combination of all the reasons and inducements which were proper to govern their choice. In other words, the electors have some wisdom and they have some flexibility to say, this is the way that states have voted, and I am going to consider that along with my broader assessment of the candidate and make a decision that I believe is the right decision for the country. So I think anybody who's just arguing electors should not do this because of how the Electoral College was created, go back to the framers themselves.
And we've been voicing for the past few weeks now about how Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, yet got robbed because Donald Trump won the Electoral College. Well, the Electoral College giveth, the Electoral College can taketh away too, and they could get screwed off by the same system.
Now, Rachel, if there is ever a case to be made, and we're talking broadly here, that an elector should apply judgment that may lead them not to vote for the winner of the state for which they are an elector, when you have, and we'll dig into this later, such a massive defeat for Donald Trump in the popular vote, there's no doubt that mathematically electors choosing to do something different than that which the state voters voted for would be most mathematically justified compared to in other elections. This is just me looking at numbers.
I suppose, but has there been any historical instance where this has changed anything?
No, there hasn't. But has there been any election like this one in history? Right? I mean, how many things have happened in this election that have never happened before? I would argue many. So I don't know that the it hasn't happened before argument is the best argument this time around, Pat.
And there have been faithless electors, just not enough to change the outcome of the vote. Some of the faithless electors have just been by accident. And in some of these states, there are penalties for voting against the will of the people. But a lot of the times it's just a few $1,000s or some sort of fine that can be made up by someone else.
Yeah, $1,000 to have what would be arguably a massive impact on the next 40 years of life on Earth, Rachel. I would take the $1,000 fine, and you know what? There's probably people that would cover the $1,000 for you, would be my guess.
Yeah, I would take it too.
So and again, as Pat said, we've had faithless electors in the past, but not to the degree that it flipped an election. What my sources told me is that currently the number is 15 and that those 15 are lobbying others. The number needs to be 37. So that is where things stand today. I have nothing else to say. I've presented all the information I have to you, and we now have until December 19th to figure out what is ultimately going to happen.